Amazon, Google, and Facebook are just some examples of the giant companies that have been watching, recording, and selling our data to the highest bidder. Our data is what gave power to the internet overlords, but that is about to change. In this video, we are going to show our analysis of the graph, its blockchain technology for Web3, as well as where we believe GRT's price will head to. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to our channel and to turn on the notifications so you always know when a new video comes out. A disclaimer alert is now in effect. This video is for informational purposes only. We recommend that you always seek professional advice. Let's dive in. Number 3, the Google of blockchains. The graph is a blockchain technology for Web3, and blockchain is the foundation on which Web3 is built. But when it comes to creating decentralized applications and gathering the data developers need to make them work, it can end up being a big headache. Why? Well, that is because obtaining data on a blockchain is a nightmare, since a blockchain is an endless stream of immutable data. So going through it to find pieces of information takes an enormous amount of time and processing power. With the current Web2 infrastructure, you would need to build an index running a server and index the data in-house. This means that it is extremely labor-intensive, energy-intensive, and highly centralized, with a single point of failure and a constant security risk. However, when you are building applications, querying data is what the game is all about, making finding the answers to the questions on how to streamline it for a blockchain a big deal. How do we move away from a centralized database and index services? How do we collect data in a decentralized manner? Accessing information in a blockchain is easy, but to access relevant data that can be used is not. It would be the equivalent of trying to find a song that you love on a 30-hour playlist when it's shuffled. It will take a lot of time and a lot of determination. A way to query data efficiently on a blockchain was always going to be a big deal, and lucky for us, the answer came in 2018 by way of 3 software engineers, Yaniv Tal, Yanis Polman, and Brendan Ramirez. These guys solved one of the most pressing issues facing developers in Web3, and if you watched our videos before, you have heard of it. It's called the graph, sometimes referred to as the Google of blockchains. But unlike Google, it isn't an evil monopoly hell-bent on world domination. The graph is a decentralized index protocol that offers a seamless, hyper-efficient way to organize any query blockchain data. The graph is not a blockchain. Instead, it is an indexing layer that sits on top of a blockchain, allowing for transparent decentralized APIs or application programming interfaces. For the sake of simplicity, the graph gathers and analyzes data before storing it into subgraphs, which dApps can search through to instantly receive the right information. This could be anything from which exchanges have the most liquidity to which governance proposals have the most rep. If you have no idea what we just talked about, don't worry, because you're about to understand it in our next point. Number 2, what are subgraphs and how do they work? Subgraphs are basically decentralized datasets that allow dApps to not need to run their own index. dApps can just query the relevant subgraph to get what they need for the front end. This means cutting through the noise of different blockchains, IPFs, oracles, sidechains, and layer 2s, you name it. The graph goes through all of them and easily gathers required data, which is why it's found traction with pretty much all of the major DeFi protocols, with billions of monthly queries for things like token prices, history trading volume, and liquidity all taking place behind the scenes. This chart is a great example of exponential growth, and that is an old chart too. In the past 18 months, they've had over $135 billion on the hosted service, and $5 billion coming since May this year. This means 2 things. The blockchain use is growing exponentially, and that the graphs technology is playing an important part in it. At the end of the last month, over 22,000 unique subgraphs have been deployed to their hosted and decentralized networks, with names such as Ava, Uni, and Audius relying on protocol. Speaking of which, a decentralized indexing layer should be decentralized itself. Since the mainnet launch, they have been running the Legacy Explorer, but they've recently deployed the Subgraph Studio, a launchpad to the decentralized network where users can test, create, and publish subgraphs for public use. They have already seen some major subgraphs migrating to the protocols such as Sushi, Pickle, Synthetic, Radical, and many others. Here is a quick run-through of the graph's basic infrastructure. It is effectively a free market model incentivizing the GRT token. First, you have the indexers. They run the nodes that process the queries, and you have got to be a nerd to be an indexer, as it requires some technical knowledge. Indexers can then stake their GRT as collateral against their activity, compete for subgraphs, and earn query fees as well as inflation rewards. Then you have got the curators. You don't need to be a nerd to do this one, almost anyone can apply. Curators pick out good subgraphs and stake their GRT in order to create a signal. The higher the signal, the greater the chance of the subgraph to be picked by indexers. Creators are incentivized for rewards coming from query and indexing fees. Last but not least are the delegators, which, let's be honest, are pretty self-explanatory. They stake GRT to support indexers and help to keep the network secure. Number 1. GRT's price potential and tokenomics. When it comes to price potential, GRT is unlikely to do 100x anytime soon, despite having a working product with a clear use case, widespread adoption, and no real competition snapping at their heels. Yes, we know, it is hard to believe that, but it all comes down to tokenomics. In our opinion, this is the only area where the graph has come under fire, and the reasons are pretty self-evident. For starters, the team and early backers have the lion's share in almost 60% of the original 10 billion tokens. Backers such as Compound, Coinbase Ventures, and the Digital Currency Group. Once you combine that with an inflammatory model of 3% a year to cover indexing rewards, a vesting distribution schedule playing out over a decade, a burn rate of only 1%, and as many as 800,000 tokens flooding the market a day, GRT could come under some major sell pressure as time goes on. However, we do not want to take away from the magnitude of the project. We are not saying it won't reward investors with impressive gains and returns. It is just likely to happen over time. Big picture, long game, as DeFi and Web3 grow exponentially. The graph could see its adoption and market cap reach levels we can't even compute today, as it could literally play a role in the lives of billions of people around the world. The graph may have started out on the Ethereum network back in 2018, but their vision is to become a part of a multi-chain future, which they have been steadily expanding support for all major layer 1s. Think about it, creating a global API by aggregating the world's data in an open source way. It's a huge deal, and if we are going to call it the Google of blockchains, then it might be best to think of GRT as Google stocks in the 1990s. Sure, they might not give you crazy gains overnight, but if you had bought a bunch of these shares back then, well, you would be laughing today as you cruise passing the bank in your Ferrari. As for our thoughts on GRT's price prediction for this cycle, we believe it will reach $3 to $5 by the end of this bull run. However, when it comes to the graph, we are looking into playing the long game, as we see fit to have a long-term play for a long-term potential. To conclude, like so many other projects in the crypto space, the graph was inspired by the need for decentralization, noticing the grave danger of centralized data services, which are present in almost every single application we use today. 3 talented individuals decided to create a protocol which makes it possible to comb through decentralized data in an effective manner, thereby supercharging existing dApps and accelerating the process at which new ones can be built. Even though its price doesn't cost you an arm and a leg, it doesn't mean that this project and GRT don't have a way higher value than the price that it has been traded at. After all, isn't it great when we find a gem for the cost of nothing? But what do you think about the graph? Where do you think this amazing project is going to go? Let us know in the comments below. We hope you have enjoyed this video, and if you did, smash that like button and subscribe to our channel so you are always up to date with the latest crypto news and analysis. Also, don't forget to check out the links in the description below. See you guys next time. Take care.